Previously on Vampire the Masquerade, Big Easy by Night. Two nights ago, Silas received a voicemail on a burner number for Emmeline Kint, the man he used to be. The message was from Caitlin Miller, a friend of his sister Heather's. She had an important message for him about his missing sister. Caitlin had been in the mayor's office, loading a presentation onto his laptop when she found pictures of Heather. The pictures were equal parts erotic and grotesque. Silas had Caitlin send him the pictures so he could comb the images for clues. It had been years since Heather had disappeared, and this was the first clue he had found that she might still be alive. Tracing the metadata, he narrowed the pictures to a 40-mile radius around New Orleans. He'd need some help. One night ago, Silas asked the rest of the coterie for help finding his sister. They updated him on getting the administrative servers, the need to find out what the servers contained about them, and that New York was located at the Succubus Club. Silas agreed that the coterie business was more important than his personal business. His sister had been missing for years already. The search could wait a few more nights. Investigating the webcam picture of New York, Silas suspected it had been taken in one of the private rooms at the club. The coterie wondered if they should bring this information to the sheriff. The lingering question was if they had enough evidence to make an accusation against another kindred. Diane focused on the photo, hoping to get a psychic impression from it. He got a vision of an Italian countryside. Confused by the vision, he sketched the image and showed it to Mia, hoping she would recognize it. She immediately recognized it as Naples, her hometown. Diane explained that Naples was somehow connected to the man in the photo. Mia remembered there was a venture in the city named Mario Di Napoli, and that in completing a previous gig, they were forced to screw him over, and he had had it out for them ever since. As he was from New York, and not Italy itself, he was what Mia called a fake Italian. Now that they knew who their enemy was, they knew they needed to put together a package for the sheriff, with solid proof of Di Napoli breaking the masquerade. Silas made sure to delete any evidence off the servers that might incriminate the coterie. It was obvious that the administrator was diligent about encrypting data and keeping no evidence of communication. There were almost no ties to Redwood at all. There was certainly nothing that might connect Verum Detenebris to Senator Lockwood. Given all the conspiracy theories about vampires in New Orleans on the site, there wasn't anything relating to the hunters active in the city. With dawn approaching, Silas set up a meeting for the next evening with one of his friends, Marie Laveau, the voodoo queen of New Orleans. Mia left for her cathedral haven. Tonight, the coterie awoke. Johnny called Marvin to see what he had learned following Jenny. Marvin reported that she worked as an environmental lawyer. She should be more well off than she was, given her job, but she made a lot of anonymous donations to Ricky Smith, a security guard that was injured in a pipeline explosion 15 years ago. Marvin couldn't find any ties between Jenny and Ricky, but Johnny knew how they were connected. Johnny directed Marvin to start following Jenny's husband, Chris. From what he had gathered, Marvin knew that Chris worked at a recycling plant. Once Johnny learned that Jenny's 2-year-old son was named Jonathan, he hung up. He wasn't ready to deal with that information. Overhearing the conversation, Silas asked Johnny what he had gone to prison for. Johnny answered that he blew up a pipeline, with Jenny. But he didn't want to talk about it. When he wanted the coterie's help, he'd ask for it. End of discussion. Silas excused himself to attend his meeting with Marie, but the rest of the coterie offered to come along. He advised them to all be on their best behavior. Marie was important to him, his last real tie to the man he once was. At Marie Laveau's House of Voodoo, the Voodoo Queen greeted everyone. She didn't shake anyone's hands because it was 2021 and COVID was the thing. She offered the group tea, but none of the kindred drank tea. Silas told her that he'd gotten a lead on Heather and hoped she could put some feelers out. Diane got another premonition, this time of a French colonial plantation house. He sketched his vision out, showing it to Silas. Nosferatu used a smartphone to search for the plantation and discovered it was the historic Prescott plantation. Conveniently, the mayor was Mark Prescott III. Marie recognized the plantation name and knew its location in Cancer Alley, a stretch outside of New Orleans where petrochemical factories had polluted the ground, the air, and the water so much that everyone was getting cancer. Silas thanked her for her help, the coterie departing to head for the Succubus Club. On the way over, Mia wondered if taking down the mayor was on the table. They already had a senator in their crosshairs. Why not a mayor, too? At the Succubus Club, Mia ordered a drink at the bar in order to blend in. She looked around to see who all was in attendance. She saw Izzy at a table with someone. She saw the sheriff talking to some of his hounds. And near the back, she was pretty sure she saw Mario DiNapoli. Realizing he was there, the coterie split up to sit around different parts of the club, all within DiNapoli's sightline so he'd know they were there. Mia realized that DiNapoli was sitting with some other fake Italians that she believed to all be part of Clan Ventru. Diane was aware that the Ventru in the city had watched a little too much Goodfellas and played up the mobster stereotype, although many of them had actual connections to the New York crime families. Mia's plan to blend in was talking to Izzy. She realized that Izzy was sitting with Nicky Burton, the Toreador Primogen and Keeper of Elysium. Izzy introduced Mia to Nicky. They talked about the Knight's Cross, Nicky interested in seeing what would happen tomorrow when an armed biker gang showed up at the bar. It had only been 2 days since the last mass shooting. Johnny left the club to look for cars that likely belonged to the mobsters. He took pictures of the plates and sent them to Silas to look up. Silas tried looking up DiNapoli in the legal system. He saw the Ventru had been arrested once, but the charges were dropped due to lack of evidence. Still, it provided an address for him. After receiving Johnny's texts, Silas ran the plates and saw that all of them were attached to a holding company named Sciarra Holdings. Outside, Johnny decided to break into one of the cars, taking care not to set off the alarm. Inside the car, he grabbed a money clip with $1,000 from the center console, a pistol, and a cell phone. Back in the club, Diane tried to get close enough to the Ventru to learn their voices, so that he could try and mimic them later. Silas watched the crowd and realized his repulsive nature was becoming off-putting. A curse of being Nosferatu. He tried fading into the background, but the beast took over, effectively making him invisible. The beast roused his paranoia, compelling him to hide from everyone, even his friends. The rest of the coterie assumed he had left without them, not wanting to deal with the crowd, and that he had returned to the hotel. Instead, Silas felt safest in the French Quarter near Marie Laveau's. He wandered the streets for an hour before he truly felt safe, returned to the hotel to find the rest of the coterie waiting for him. Diane wanted to find out more about Sciarra Holdings. The beast answered, demanding perfection. He was able to learn that Sciarra was an import-export company, but their primary business was money laundering. They'd been investigated more than once, but their lawyers were good enough to keep things tied up in the courts with continuous delays. With time to kill, Mia decided to drop by Sarah's to check on her. After the attack, Sarah had become more paranoid than usual, but things seemed quiet. Even the creepy guy down the hall who seemed to be obsessed with her had been quiet. Mia was incensed. After leaving Sarah's, she went down to the laundry room to check the nook where she had found the camera filming Sarah. It hadn't been replaced. She considered her current feelings on the human race. She went up to the apartment that matched the nook and knocked on the door. As soon as it was open, she barged in. Realizing Sarah's stalker was an incel, Mia drew the shadows around her, threatening him with slow torture if he ever even looked at Sarah. For good measure, she smashed his laptop. Back at the hotel, Silas was able to crack the phone Johnny had stolen. There were text messages to other members of the group, but the Ventru were smart enough to speak in code. Silas could read between the lines to get the basics of the protection racket they were running. He also turned off the Find My Phone feature. Most importantly, it also got them DiNapoli's phone number. To be continued.